post them later today. First thing I wanted to start off with is several of you mentioned that you have Macs, and so that is a little different way of using Google Sheets. So I'm going to pull that up real quick and show you something that's just started last year, and so I have not messed with it a ton, and I haven't because initially it was kind of a pain to do, but they've kind of got it figured out now to where it's fairly straightforward. So I'm gonna start teaching it this way now. So in Excel, if you've been watching the initial couple of videos, for instance, we're gonna do a bunch of these today. We're gonna keep track of see how much money we put, say, in a savings account. And so the way I like to do it in Excel is I come over here, and I'm just going to do this really quick here while we're getting started, and then what I would hope that today, as we're going along, as we're starting to talk about a couple of these things, I'd hope to see everyone starting to play along a little bit in terms of you're trying it along with yourself at home. If you run into any questions as we're doing them, you know, and maybe you get stuck on one or whatever, normally in class, what I'll do is we'll have time to work. And that's the thing I miss the most about being in class, is because I have 3 hours to work with you, but I probably teach 2 of that, 2.5 maybe, and give you somewhere between a half an hour and an hour to work every day. And so I can look over your shoulder and usually get things figured out fairly quickly. But as I'm going along today, what I want people to kind of visualize is that these things are in essence the same. And so until this term is the first time I'm going to do it this way, in Google Sheets, you didn't used to be able to do what I'm going to show you how to do. So they've added this functionality in the last couple of years. So if you go under data, you go here to name the ranges. And so you can just what's called add a range. And so if you click on this, all right, you can call this interest 1, which is what I show you in Google Sheet or in Excel as well. And like over here, maybe we'll call this payment. And we'll just go over here to add a range, and you can put in like payment 1. And it's exactly the same functionality as Excel at this point. So that in a few minutes when we start playing the game and we start typing these equations in, I want you guys to see it's exactly the same. Plus, and then you can literally type in the word interest, and there's our interest 1 right down here. You can click on him, divided by 12. Plus payment, let's say, and you just start typing plus payment. There he is. Boom. Done. And it's exactly the same functionality now as Excel. So just for those of you that were a little concerned or worried about that, and I know several of you were, don't panic too much. What I may do is I may do half of my examples in Excel and half in Google Sheets, so you can kind of get the feel of it, I hope. I don't know. So Google Sheets, for the most part, actually, there's a couple things for this class I used to like a lot better for it, but then this one functionality is kind of gone away. And so it's too bad. We're going to have to use something different now. There's the simulation project, which you may have seen. I don't know if I have it. No, it should still be hidden. One of our projects later on is a simulation project. And so when it comes down to it, if you have a Mac or you don't have access to this one functionality of Excel, which it's not in every function of Excel, and I'll show you how to add it if it's not. When we get to that one, I will help you generate the data as a workaround. We'll work around it when we get there. Still want everyone to be able to play along and have some fun with it. So my plan for the class from now on is we will meet on Saturdays from 8 to, it's on the books to 9:30. We probably won't go to quite till 9:30. It just kind of depends. But the idea is we will meet in class here. We'll talk about a few things. Pretty much everything that you need is going to be online at this point. Okay. The purpose of the class, answer questions, kind of hit a few things a little bit harder, and hopefully talk a little bit more about just kind of the whys and why we do some of this stuff. Try to hopefully open your eyes to some of that a little bit. There's a couple things in probability that I want to teach because I just feel it's easier to explain it and get questions answered than to watch a video from it. Couple things in probability that are just that way. I think it helps people to see it better. So I guess without further ado, is any questions on the quiz, on the syllabus rather? I haven't heard anybody, well, with the exception of my quiz was messed up. Sorry about that. I guess last term before the COVIDs hit, we'd already taken the quiz. I guess that's what it was or something. Most people just figured it out. So otherwise I would have changed it. But anyway, apologize for that. Didn't mean to freak you out. So hopefully there's no questions on that. If there's any questions on the syllabus, let me know. Anybody have anything? As far as turning in the homework goes, there'll be 2 turn-ins, one at the midterm and then one at the end of the term. So right around the midterm week, there'll be a drop box that pops up. Go ahead and scan or take pictures of your homework and upload it then. As far as the homework goes, I'd like to see you doing it on paper. Write the answer down on paper. Use Excel or Google Sheets to get the answers and then write it on paper. Okay. Now, me personally, I want to know if I'm right or wrong. So I have not yet, but my plan is to finally, because this new book does not include all the online answers. They only have a few. I'd like to start including a little bit more of those, so I have to sit down and get it done one of these days. I get that. If there's a problem that I was concerned about, if I was you, and I'm going to show you how to check almost all of your financial problem, homework problems. So for instance, like if the question is, what is the payment for this house that I just bought? And you did the math, or you use Excel, and Excel said it's $400 or something a month, and you check yourself at the end of 360 months or 30 years, you still owe $80,000. That's not the right answer. Okay. Or if it pays off sooner than 30 years, you're wrong. So that's kind of a neat thing about math. I've always hated that about classes like English. Here, what is this poem about? I don't know. It sounds like it's about flowers. No, you're wrong. It's about the Victorian mores or something. Like, what? I don't know. The nice thing about math is it's very straightforward. And for the stuff that we're going to be doing in this class, for the most part, it's you're right or wrong. And so that's what I like about it. If I'm wrong, I'm going to go find out why I'm wrong and try to fix it. So that's kind of the idea there. But anyway, we'll take the homeworks at that time. So I'm not too concerned that you don't show me any work on the homework portion of it. But when it comes to test time, you'll be writing your answers on paper on the test, but you'll be also submitting for the test only the actual spreadsheet of your data that you did, so that I can go back and look, hey, that's the wrong answer. What did she do wrong or he do wrong? And oh, look, there you dropped a negative sign or something, and then I can give you credit for what you did. So that's kind of how I worked that out. Quizzes, there's 5 quizzes, I believe, when it's all said and done, plus a couple more assignments that will pop up as we go along. You have multiple tries at those to get them done and get them right. If you mess them up, you can go try again. So don't put them off till the end. It kind of annoys me. People get, hey, I only got to take it once. Well, you waited till the last day it was due, so I can't really grade it and give it back to you. That said, the computer does auto grade them. And because it auto grades them, if you don't type it in exactly like I do, it's wrong. Don't panic. I always go back and regrade them. Okay. So don't freak out. Like I got like a 2 out of 100 or whatever. No, you didn't. It's just that, like for instance, if you put down that the answer was the answer was 2 out of 100, let's say, that's great. But I wrote it as a decimal. I wrote it as 0.02, and then somebody else write it down as 2% or whatever. They're all the same answers, except that you're going to get it marked wrong. Someone wrote 1 out of 50. That's also going to get marked wrong. So if you choose to write it differently than I chose to write it, when I put in the answer, it's going to be marked wrong. I will fix it when I go back and regrade the things. So just be aware of that. I'll check my email at least twice a day, usually, except on the weekends. On the weekends, one of the weekend days, I usually don't check my email at all. So I can't say it's always Saturday. Sometimes it's Sunday. It just depends. So just be aware of that. Yep. So I think without further ado, I will jump over to my other computer here. I kind of co-host it with myself every week. So we had something like this. There we go. So if you watched the videos this week, some things. For instance, we mentioned this, that whenever you talk about compound interest, and if you haven't seen this, I'm just going to write it down for right now so you can see where it comes from. We're going to pay you or charge you, depending on whether you're borrowing money or whether you're putting money in the account. Interest, part of your interest, I should say, part of your interest multiple times a year. And so the idea, of course, is that if most of our stuff in our daily lives is going to be monthly interest, which means that we're going to get 1/12 of the interest 12 times a year. And so everything in our daily lives pretty much is monthly interest. You may work for some big multinational corporation, and somewhere in there they might be paying quarterly interest or something. Okay, usually only big corporations get things like that. On the farm, we paid monthly interest when I was farming back in the day, but we made not monthly payments. We paid one ginormous payment at the end of the year. Okay, so there's a little bit of, you know, wiggle room to some of this, but this is what we do as normal consumers. You put money in a bank account, it's monthly interest. You take out a home loan or a car loan, it's monthly interest, 100% of the time. Okay, so that's the thing that we're going to do. And so what we're going to see is this: if you had some money in the account, and I always like to start off with $100 because it's easy, and 12% because that's easy. Those are the two things I like to start with, so that each month I'm going to have the previous month. I'm going to have the previous month's, for the love of Pete, there you go. I'm going to have the previous month's amount of money, so $100. And I'm going to multiply that by 1, because I'm still going to have my 100% of what I started with, plus the interest that I have divided by 12. So I will have, in this case, 100 times 1, and then 12%, which of course is 0.12 divided by 12, is going to be 0.01. In other words, I'm going to have 101% of last month. It's balance. Okay, and that will always be true no matter what we're doing. It'll always be this exact same setup, and it won't always be 100 here. In fact, what we're going to do in Excel is we're going to have, this is column A, this is row 1, so whatever's in this cell is cell A1. What we're going to do is put A1 right there. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate this on the bigger computer because I think it's pretty easy to see. And if you've seen it on what I've done already, that's great in the videos. So that should be a nice little review for you. Where am I at? I guess this will be a fine one to do. So again, if you look down here, I like to name everything based on what sheet I'm on. Also, if you click on this, and some of you that have used Excel a lot, if you right click, you can rename a sheet. So this could be example 1 or something, or you could, you know, problem number 2 or whatever it happens to be. Name them to make you happy. Real pro tip, you can change the tab color too somewhere. Where is it? Oh, right there. Yes. I don't get fancy with this stuff. This is the basics. So if I put $100 in here, again, I like to just code everything in terms of this is dollars, rounded off to dollar signs. In a minute, I'm going to not do that. I'm just going to show you something what it looks like and kind of go from there. But here I'm going to put in 0.12. And so the way I like to, over here is the name box. Again, this should be a review if you watch the video. We'll get into some new stuff here in a second. So interest 1, sure, I guess, why not? Nice. And so here it's simply going to be equals that guy times, oops. Now it does not recognize what's called implied multiplication. So you know you can put 3 times a parentheses without any time sign in there. And algebraically we know what that means, but from a programming standpoint it doesn't work that way. So 1 plus interest, there it is right there, divided by 12, boom, oops, and there we go. So look at that, we made $1 in interest last month, quite clearly. We had $100, now we have $101. The $100 is mine, so the $101, obviously the $1 extra is the interest part of it. Notice at the end of the year, we have $12 more. We have actually $12.68. If it was truly 12% interest paid once a year, I would have only $112. That extra 68 cents comes about because I get a little bit extra added to my bill or to my account every month. Okay, and so that's something to think about when you're doing these guys. Okay, so when you do this, you think about it, equals this ending balance for the year. That's, again, remember, A1 is the 0 month. It doesn't really count. It's what our starting balance was. So in A2, that's the second cell down. That's after 1 month, after 2 months. So after 12 months, will always be 13. It'll be one more than you think it should be. Okay. Think about this for a second. We're going to do some more of this in a couple of weeks because this is a whole different topic a little bit. But just watch this real quick here and let's just see what you think about this. So it's 12.68% interest. Okay, so how did I get that? Well, you get rid of this and that and this, you can see that you have, it's 1.1268 times bigger than this number right here. What is this number here as a decimal or as a percentage? It's 112.68%. Or in other words, you didn't get 12% more, you got 12.68% more than you started with. Okay, that's going to be a big concept going forward. Okay, now again, you drag this down, you want it for 2 years? Cool, let's go 2 years. 2 years, boom, there it is. How much money did you make in 2 years? You made $26.97 in 2 years. How do I know that? Because I started with $100, I've added on this extra amount. Okay. Now someone might very well say, well, what if I put in some extra money every month? That's a good question, let's do that. So if this is gonna be my extra deposit, I'm just gonna come over here and put in deposit. And because I'm on problem 1, let's say I'm gonna put deposit 1. That's kind of a minor thing, it seems like, but if you use the word deposit on this sheet, when you go to the next sheet here and you add another sheet and you type in deposit again, it'll always come back to that first deposit. So just make sure you pay attention to that, okay? And name them appropriately. So if I'm gonna put in 30 extra dollars, okay, I'm gonna go right here and go plus deposit. Now, I don't have to name these cells, okay? I could just type in plus 30. The problem with that is that I like to have what's called a dynamic spreadsheet. So what I can do right here is this. You know, I don't want to start with $100. I want to start with $500. Done, fixed it. By the way, this doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. Don't pay attention to that anymore. I don't want to put in $30 a month. I want to put in 50. Sweet. Oh, I'm glad I did this on accident right away. Look at this right here. What does this mean? This means your cell isn't wide enough. So simply click here and drag it over. There you go. Now, as you well know, no one gets 12% interest in their savings account. So let's make it something that's a little more normal, like 1.8% or 2% maybe. Maybe you can find a 2%er. Good for you. There you go. It's dynamic. Everything updates. It is amazing. I love that. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to screw around with anything. But if I name my cells, that will always work. Okay. Same thing again can be done in sheets. I already set this one up over here. Well, somewhere. Come on, Betsy. Where are you? There you are. So 500. I think I was putting in $30 here. Cool. And I think I was doing 2%. And let's drag this baby down and see if they agree with each other. 25. Boom. 12, 54, 36. What did I do wrong? Oh, 50 bucks, you ding dong. Well, let's just do 30 instead. How about that? Oh, yeah, look at that. I can do math. Good for us. Okay. So this is how we do savings accounts. Every single savings account will always work the same way. Now, the reason that I like to use Excel for this, well, for so many reasons, but one of the main reasons I like to use Excel about this is because if you use and if you look in the book, it makes reference to the formulas. The old book we used to use had nothing but formulas. Problem with formulas is it makes you put in the exact same amount of money every month in a savings account. That's all you can do. It just stays there like forever. Like you're stuck at putting 50 bucks in. The nice thing about Excel is it's not true. So, I always tell the story about my cousin. When she got married, they had 2 kids, and then they couldn't have kids for a long time. So then they adopted 3 kids, and then they had another one. Whoops. Anyways, they have like 5 of them now, and their family have birthdays in May. So every year at May, it's just like they're like we are screwed for the amount of money that we have available. So what they do, or what they could do, if you were in a situation like that, where'd my meeting go? Here we go. So what she or Bill and them could do is they could go in and let's say right here, this is about May. Yeah, I can't afford to put this money in anymore. So she could just get rid of this plus deposit, because this happens in the real world frequently. I get rid of that. I just want to point out right now, I have this little green arrow means that this cell is different than all the ones around it, which is true. But listen, say maybe for the next 4 or 5 months, she's not going to put in that extra $30 a month deposit. These guys are gone now. And it's quite possible that this month here is, I don't know, Bill gets a raise, or maybe it's a Christmas bonus or something. He gets to drop in $1,000 that month. And that one is different from all the rest of them. And that's fine. That's why I like to teach Excel, because I'm always able to go in and change to my heart's content what's going on and then see what happens down the road. Okay, I love that about Excel. And I hope that everyone, by the time they're done with, by the time I'm done with you, you like it too, because it's kind of a neat way to go about it. Now, some questions that will be, I'm going to phrase a couple of questions. Maybe I am. I'm just going to type this out. I think it'll be easier to do. So a question that might come up on the homework is this: you invest, or you put in whatever, however you want to phrase it, $800 at 3% for 5 years. How much will you have? Okay, unless I say otherwise in this book, we're just going to compound it monthly. So unless I say otherwise, just assume compounded monthly. How much of that is interest? These are the kind of questions you'll be asked both in the homework and on the test. So let's go take a peek. Again, I'll do this one in sheets this time, I think. Sure, let's do sheets. Plus sign, sheet 2, cool. So $800. Oops, that's 800, yep. This time I'm not going to use the dollar signs for a second. I just want to point something out. And then 3%, I think is what I said. Is that right? Yep, cool. Nice. So I'm going to add a range. This is going to be interest 2. And don't worry that you didn't spell it correctly. It doesn't matter if I did or didn't spell it correctly, because as soon as I start typing over here, so equals A1 times parentheses 1 plus interest. Just pick the one you want. Okay, and notice that it's purple. It matches the purple here. That means you know you did it right. If it turns green or something, but this 0.03 is not green, then obviously you messed up. You're calling something from another page. So 802. And then let's drag her down. Again, 6 years or 5 years is 60 months. So we're gonna go to 61. Boom. Now look at this. This is disgusting. Okay. If you've seen, I think it was Superman 2, but it's referenced in Office Space. And they talked about rounding off all the decimals and stealing all that money. That's what they're talking about. So just be aware of that. Yeah.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. What happened? I shared it. I thought I did. Thank you. Let's try that now. Okay. Where do we leave off? There. See that? See those goofy decimals? All right. That's what happens when you don't set this thing into dollar sign notation. So just come up here and click on the A, highlight the whole column, put in dollar signs. Now you're happily ignorant that there's extra money sitting over there. Okay. Just be aware of that. That's the thing you want to do. So 929, 29 is the answer to the problem. And again, write this on your paper. You don't have to type this. I prefer you didn't actually. And then how much of that is interest? Well, you started with 800, so the rest of it is clearly the interest amount. Okay, so that's how much you made in interest. Okay. Something that one time, or a problem that does come up in one of the textbook questions. It's not a bad question. I kind of like it actually. What percent of the initial balance, or no, what percent of the final balance is the interest. Ooh, fancy. So that's the way you would do that, of course. 129.29 divided by 929.29. Oops, with a decimal would help. And that's how you'd figure that answer out. So I'll go do that real quick. Oops, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Equals 129.29 divided by 9. So about 13, almost 14% of the final balance is actually interest. Okay. I don't hate that question. I'm not sure that I would ever ask it. It's just one of the textbook questions. I'm too lazy to change it. I think it's actually makes you think pretty good. So that part of it I kind of like. Makes you think a little outside the box. Another question that would come up, something like this. You want to save for retirement. And start with $1,000. And add, oh, let's go big. 100 a month at 2.3% interest. Let's see. Let's say that you're an old person, so you have 15 years to retirement. You have 15 years till retirement. How much will you have? Here's the answer. Not enough. So if you're doing this in Excel, oops, that is not how you spell his name. 2. Put 1,000 there. 0.023, 2.3%, and $1,000 here, or $100 rather there. Sorry. And then make sure you label these. So this is a deposit. I could put it as a payment, I guess. It wouldn't hurt anything, but I'm going to really call it what it is, deposit. And since it's on number 2, deposit 2. And then this guy, interest 2. And notice I spelled it wrong. I didn't really do that on purpose, but I think it's important to understand that it doesn't matter as long as you know what you're talking about and you reference the correct cell. So what I like to do personally in Excel, and you can't do this in Google Sheets, I like to just click on the cell that I'm interested in. You see that? And when you do this in Excel, it no longer reviews that cell as D1. It refers to it as interest 2. And so that to me is a nicer way to go. Google Sheets, you actually have to physically, if you click on it, it will say D1. But if you type it in, it'll say interest, whatever. And that's cool. Just be aware of that, the slight difference in that regard. And now we have to go down 15 years. Now I happen to know that, but if I didn't know that, it would be 15 times 12 is 180 months. So I'm going to go ahead and go down 180 months, which will put me at 181 and see where we end up. Oop. So I will have $22,000. Yay! That is not going to cut it. Not even close. Now, so 22,882, 33. I'll just copy that. Whatever you do for the homework, and if you insist on typing it, that's okay. That's not going to hurt my feelings. I do not want a spreadsheet sent to me. Okay, I do not want a spreadsheet sent to me. It is way too hard to grade homework when they're in a million different tabs and people are all over the place. Now, some of you are probably very organized and it probably be okay, but a lot of you, it's all over the place, and I can't do that. So I would prefer you handwrite your answers on paper. That's what I would prefer. If you feel you must and you want to type it in something like Word here, I'm okay with that. Like problem 1, problem 2, problem 3, problem 4. I'm okay with that. Don't waste a lot of time on that though. If that's too hard to type it all out or whatever, don't do that. Just write it on paper. But what if you had more than 15 years? What if you were young? What if you started this at age 18? Now, I remember my grandpa always yelling at me about, you need to start saving money for retirement, boy. I'm like, I don't even have a real job, Grandpa. What are you talking about, you weirdo? Had I started this at age 18, let's see, equals 18, well, 65 minus 18, you'd have 47 years. 47 times 12 is 564 months, which doesn't really seem like that long if you think about it. 500, what did I say, 564? What did I say? I'll listen to myself. Where'd it go? Where'd I put it? 564. All right, so I need to go down to 565. Let's go. One more. All right, you still don't have enough money, okay, but you still got a lot more than I do, okay, so at some point in that regard. So think about that. Obviously, it matters when you start, and time is always going to be a big, big, big deal for us. So when we're doing these, guys, what I want you to always think about is this. Everything we're going to do with money is going to come down to 5 players. And I like to make a big deal about it here. Well, thank you. Yes, I should have been paying attention to the to the chat there. But I was not. Split screen, share screen. Everything we do when it comes to time and money will have 5 players, and they will be on every single problem we do, every single one of them. There will be the initial balance. In other words, what did you start with? Okay, we refer to this as present value, and it is abbreviated as PV. That's going to be a big deal. Okay. The final balance is obviously going to be a big deal. Like in the case of a loan, the final balance after you get done paying better be 0. Okay. We call this the future value. In the case of this retirement plan thing, you would have had $100 and some thousand. That's your future value. Okay. And again, that's referred to as FV in Excel. Time is obviously going to be huge. How long did you save for? How long is the loan for? If you're going to pay off a loan on a house that you borrowed $300,000 for, and you did it over the course of 30 years, okay, it's going to be a big payment, but you can probably swing it, $1,500, $1,800, whatever a month. If you tried to pay that off over the course of 5 years, dude, you can't do that. That's going to be huge every month. Now, will you save interest? Yes, because you didn't owe the money as long, but you're going to get killed in the monthly payment. You can't afford that. So time is what it's all about. And we refer to this as NPER. It's the number of periods, okay? And it will, for the most part, for us, it's going to be 12 times the number of years, almost exclusively, again, in the real world, okay? So you take out a loan on a car, it's a 5-year loan, NPER would be 60 months, okay? If you take out a 30-year loan, 360 months, okay? These are the ideas. It'll always be true. Now, it might be a situation where you want to know how long will it be before I have saved up this amount of money. Okay, I'm going to show you how to solve that problem in a few minutes too. Interest, of course, is going to be huge. If you're getting 12% interest versus 2% interest, that is a big deal. The good news is, in the real world, you don't get to decide that. Okay, you go down to the bank. You have a choice between banks, but they're all going to be right around the same. Okay. So you can't walk in a bank like, listen, I need 7% on the savings account. Go fly a kite, pal. That ain't how it works. Okay. And then the last one, of course, is payment. Sometimes you can think of it as deposit. It makes no difference to me because it's the same. The difference is basically payment. Obviously, I'm paying money out of pocket. You know, I'm paying down a loan versus deposit. I'm trying to build up my savings account. Same principle, kind of more of a positive, negative thing. And that is PMT. That's how Excel will refer to them. These 5 players are on every single problem, okay? You could start with 0 in the bank account. You could end with 0. That's cool. You cannot have a savings account for 0 time. That doesn't make sense. You cannot have 0% interest. Well, I guess if you stuff it in your mattress, but it's not much of a problem. Hey, how much will be in there in 20 years? Whatever you stuck in there already. Well, there you go. The deposit could be 0. The payment can't be 0. They'll come and take your house. That's a bad idea. But the deposit could very well be 0. You could just put money in and let it sit, and that's totally doable. On every single problem, these 5 players will be there in some form or another every single time. Okay. There's 2 formulas that I'm actually going to teach you. I'm going to teach you these 2 formulas, and the reason I only teach those 2 is because they're the only 2 that you can't dinkle fart around with and figure it out. Okay. This one here, you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose your interest. So there's no reason to talk about that. Okay. We will use the rate function later on for something completely different, but we don't get to choose that. Like, I need to have 50 grand saved up in a couple of years. Cool. I'm going to start the thing with $1,000. Okay, well, I'm no mathematician, but if you're going to start with 1,000 and you need to get to 50,000 in 24 months, you're going to put in a lot of months. And you're like, yeah, I can afford about $100 a month, Jay. Well, you're not going to get there, pal. Yeah, but I figured it out. If they give me 500% interest rate, I'll totally get there. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So we're not going to fool with that one at all. Okay. These two, okay, I'm not going to show you how to use I'm not going to show you how to use the formula for those two because number one, they're really kind of screwy to use. Every time I try to use them, I never trust my answer, especially future value. And I always end up going and checking myself anyway. And so the way I check it is a very straightforward process. So what we're going to talk about now is these two things here. By the way, we already did this one. Did you see? Every time I said to myself, what will I have in 15 years, 20 years, 30 years? All I did was click and drag it down and I read off the final balance. That's how I find future value. Okay. It is so easy. Click, drag, done. Okay. Now, another one, what do I want to say? Let's actually do another Google Sheet example. Sure. Why not? So let's say we start off with, yeah, here we go. Cool. How long will it take to have $43,000 in your account if you start with 5,000 and add 250 a month at 3% interest? I don't know. So if you look at this, $43,000 is your future value. Clearly, that's what you're looking for. That's what you want to have. This is your present value. That's your starting amount. There's your payment, obviously, or deposit in this case. And there's your rate. The thing that's missing is time. Okay, and that's obviously stated in the question as well. So when we do this,
Can't see your screen again.
oh, for God's sakes, it says I'm sharing. Am I really not sharing? What is happening here? I don't understand.
Maybe.
I'll try again. Now, can you see it? Anyone?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Nice. So let's start this baby off with 5 grand. And let's say it's 3%. By the way, you can use the actual 3% if you like. I don't like to, but you can. It's just something I've never gotten into. I always just got in the habit of using decimals. And let's say $250 a month. There we go. Deposit 3. Cool. And equals. And again, this is how I like to do NPER. I find it the easiest way. It's, I think, easier than using the formula. Call me crazy. Interest 3. Oops, you dummy. Start typing it in. Interest 3. Divide by 12. Plus payment, or plus deposit rather. Nice. And I'm looking for 43,000. So the easiest way to do this problem is drag it for a while. See what happens. I'm not there yet. Nobody's getting hurt here. Just dragging, going to have a little fun. 43,000, back up just a hair, Jay. You went too far. And 43,000, it looks like it's going to take me right around to line 124, which is right around 124 months. And 124 months divided by 12 is going to be about 10 years and 4 months, okay, until I will have that amount of money. Had you used the NPER function, it would have said it was 124 point whatever months. Yay, I guess. to me, it's easier just to click and drag. It's faster. I think it's better. I just think it's an easier way to go about it. Okay. Now, the other two functions, the only two that I'm going to ask you to do, or that I'm going to teach you how to do, are present value and payment. Those are the two most important ones. Most important, I think, in our daily lives, because when we go to buy a home, if you come across this house, you're like, oh, it's this much money. I have this much of a down payment. What's my monthly payment going to be? That's huge for everybody, right? And so there's that. And then there's also the, I can afford this much down payment and I can afford this much monthly payment. The question is, how much of a house price am I looking for? In other words, if you know that your top that you can afford is $300,000, you won't go looking at this $500,000 houses and then get all crushed because you can't afford them. You will know what your budget range is. And so those are the two that I like to use the most. And also because they're the hardest to find by guess and by check kind of thing. Okay. So for instance, this guy here, you need to have 10,000 saved up in the next 4 years. You can get 2.5% interest and can put in $300 a month. What would you need to start with? Okay. And so if you look at it, 10,000 is clearly your future value. 4 years is 48 months. That's our time. That's our NPER. This is clearly our rate here, and that's our deposit. The thing that's missing is present value. Okay, and so to do this, let's do it. This works exactly the same in Google Sheets. So I'm just go ahead and set it up this way. So 0.02, what did I say, 525? Yep, 0.025. There we go. Name that baby interest 4, I guess, in this case. And 300 a month. Deposit. So what I don't know is what goes in this cell A1. I know what would go in A2. It's equals A1 times yada, yada, yada. But what I don't know is what goes in there. So the formula is equals PV. So it tells me what it wants. It wants the rate. So I click on the rate, divide by 12, comma. It wants the number of periods. Well, I said 4 years, so 4 years times 12, you can literally type it in like that, or you can do 48. And then the payment, so comma, and then I'm going to click on the payment, which is right here. Okay, and hit enter. Oh, darn it, screwed that up. You'll notice that it came out in parentheses. That means it's negative. You need to use a negative for the deposit. Okay, that just changes the sign. That's all it's going to do. Okay, so now it's 13,000. It's positive $13,000. Okay, the reason it does that is because because Excel has been set up such that it's set up in terms of a loan. So when it sees $300, it's thinking about the idea that you're in the whole 13,000, so you're filling the hole up. That's just kind of how it's been put together. So you just have to be aware that if it comes out negative 13,000, you're like, oh, that's not right. Make it negative payment or negative deposit in this case, and that will give you the positive value. Now, as I said, this is why I love Excel and math in general, is because I can always check myself if I'm right. Okay, just type it in. Now, in 48 months, where should I be? Well, I should have whatever I wanted to have. I forgot what the answer was, but we'll go look. 48, so 49. Boom. Something's a little screwy there, Jay. Did I not say 4 months? Did I say a different time and I wasn't paying attention to myself? Oh, 4 years, 2.5%, $300, 10,000. Okay, so I made a boo-boo. Let's go look what happened. Now, again, I did not do that on purpose. Totally didn't do that on purpose. So let's see what I did wrong here. Interesting. PV interest 4 divided by 12. Okay, something's a little screwy here. Oh, wait. No, that's right. Okay, first of all, this is why I like this. I can tell if I'm right or wrong. You see this? This is incorrect. Okay, that is not what I need to have. Oh, but now I know what the problem is. Never mind. I know the problem is. Whew. Come back up here. If you click on this, darn it, what are you doing? Click on this A1 formula. I forgot something. Notice that future value is grayed out. Okay, future value is grayed out because, again, Excel is set up for a situation where you need to have it's set up as it's a loan. So the future value on a loan will always be 0. And so if it's not a loan, you have to come in here and change it up. That's why I didn't think to make deposit. I thought the deposit should be positive, but I was wrong. But here's why: because the future value needs to be negative. So it's negative 10,000 is where I need to start with. Yes, because that's where I want to go. I want to get to $10,000. Okay, which I should have caught that earlier, right? Because I want to get to 10,000. I need to start with 13. It doesn't make sense. Okay, let's see if this looks better. Okay, it's closer. One of these is always negative, one's positive. I just got to screw with it. Now, by the way, this is the only thing about Excel or Google Sheets that no matter how often I did it, if I did it every day, maybe I wouldn't screw it up as often as I do, but there it is. So let's see. Deposit for negative 10,000. What is going on? It's embarrassing, Jay. 48 months. 48 months. It's clearly not doing it right. What did I? 2.5% interest, $300 a month. That's crazy. Oh, I know why. That's embarrassing. What's 48 times 300, Jay? Oops. Maybe if you put the equal sign there. Anybody know what the problem is? I know what the problem is now. There, see that? In other words, if I just put the money in with 0 interest, right, then I would already have $14,000. So let's change the question so it actually makes sense. We can actually do the problem. Sorry about that. I need to have 30,000 saved up. How about that? There you go, idiot. Okay. By the way, the textbook problems and my problems will work as a general rule. So it's just gotta pay attention to what I'm doing here a little bit. There we go. Let's try this. It should work now. And that. Okay, now that's better now. Okay, so that's what should have happened. Okay, here we go. So get rid of this negative. Make this the negative and it'll work. Phew, good night. That's embarrassing. Aha! There, beautiful. And look at that, right down at the end, 30,000. Well, how about that? It only took 10 minutes to figure that out. Nice job, dummy. Clearly, I would not have had to put in $300 a month to get to $10,000 in the next 4 years. I wouldn't need to do that. I wouldn't need to put in that much money. So what this answer to this question was, I need to start off with this much money in order to get to $30,000 in 4 years if I was putting in $300 a month. Okay, that's the answer to the question. That is the present value. Jiminy Christmas. Let's try another one, but just try not to screw it up this time. Okay, so it's smoother and to the point. I need to have 10,000 saved up. 10,000 saved up, sure, in the next 3 years. And I am not going to put this much in a month. I'm going to put in 50 a month. There we go. Cool. Now, think about that. 36 times 50, is that going to work? No, I'm going to put in 20 bucks a month. And I'm not going to screw it up. There you go. Nice. Nice. There we go. So, 103, is that what I said? I don't listen to myself. No, 2.5 and 20. 2.5 and 20. There we go. Okay. Make sure you label these guys. Deposit 4 and click it. Interest 4. And then over here, again, the formula is exactly the same, equals PV. Okay, and then it tells you what it's looking for, just like Excel does. So it wants the rate. So you can either click on this cell for right now. Notice that it will put in C1. That's not going to hurt anything for the case of what we're doing. or you could have typed in interest for. Either one would work. The number of periods, I forgot what I said. 3 years, so the number of periods is going to be 36 months. All right. The payment amount is this D1, and then the future value is negative $1,000. Okay, is that what I said? Yeah, 10,000. You forgot a zero, Jay. There we go. Hit enter. Cool. I would need to start off with $8,500. Again, don't know if I'm right or wrong. So what I'm going to do is just type in my formula, just like always. It's so easy to do. Divided by, oh, darn it. Type in interest. That's the only thing that takes me a little bit of getting used to about the Google Sheets is you can't just click on over here where it says interest for like you think you should. It doesn't work that way. You have to start typing. And once you see it, then click on the one you want down here. And that will work. And then drag it down to 37, which is 3 years. Boom. Done. Piece of cake. Okay. So that's key. And you'll be doing a lot of that this week on the homework. Okay. So a couple more little things I wanted to hit this week as we're talking about these is so normal savings accounts, you can put in and take out to your heart's content. Okay, you know, you're gonna save some money. Most people don't put in a certain amount every month. You know, I'll get an extra $50, let's throw that in. And some months you don't put anything in at all. That's fine. However, I want to talk a little bit about a specific kind of savings account, which is called a certificate of deposit. Okay, or a CD. Okay, so the game is a savings account for a certain period of time. You are guaranteed an interest amount. You are not allowed to add or take out any money for that period. All right, so back in the day when I was a kid, it's probably in the 70s and 80s, I guess, interest rates are pretty good. And so you would take out a CD, you put some money in there that you didn't need for a while. Let's say you're saving to buy a car, put in a couple $1,000s, whatever you had, and you put it in the bank account. And let's say you're getting 6 or 8% or 9% or whatever it was interest, and for like a year. You couldn't touch that money for a year, but you got guaranteed higher interest in that deal. And the reason the banks did that is so that they knew they were keeping your money. They had your money on hand for a guaranteed part of time. So because of that, they were able to make more loans and do more things with it. They had more security in what they were doing. So they were able to pay you more interest. Obviously, they paid more interest back then because the interest rates were higher. Back then, a home loan was in the teens and the low teens in terms of interest rates on a home loan. And so obviously they're and then car loans are the same thing, you know, really high rates. So they're making their money, but they're able to pay you a higher interest. Our home loans now are so ridiculously low. The banks aren't making a ton of money on interest, therefore they can't pay you a ton of interest either. That's just kind of how the game's played. They were pretty cool from the standpoint of you got paid a lot of extra money. It was guaranteed. They're kind of falling out of vogue because nowadays you wouldn't do it because why tie up my money when the savings accounts don't pay much either, but I can get my money in and out quickly. Okay, so something I like to use is NerdWallet. It's one of my favorite websites when it comes to money. Because we don't necessarily go to you don't necessarily go to your local bank anymore to get things. So if you go under savings accounts, I can come in here and you're like, oh, okay, here's the different savings accounts. Okay, currently right now, this American Express bank account, I can get 1% interest rate. You're like, ooh, that's exciting. No, it's terrible. They're not very good, but that's just kind of how life are. I can compare accounts on just savings accounts. These are just any savings accounts. You can go in there and put your minimum deposit in. I don't have that much money, Jay, this and this. And then it's going to be sorted. The best you can get right now is 1.21% interest. Okay. And you can do all these kind of things. But What I want to talk about is CD rates. So right now, if you go in right now, let's say if you had $25,000 for 2 years, the best you can get is 1.05. And you're like, wait, what? Why would I do that? I don't know. I wouldn't. I would not tie up. Again, this is minimum 25 grand. You're going to tie that up for 2 years? I'm not doing that. So maybe if I had down here, maybe like I had less than $1,000, you know, 1,000 and whatever dollars. That's cool. I would not do it for 2 years. I might do it for a year. But look at this. I would tie it up for you. I can't touch it, and I'm only going to get 0.8% interest. Okay, so these things have fallen out of vogue, but as interest rates start coming back up, which they will do at some point probably, these might become back into vogue again. So no one would do them today, and I can't imagine why you would do it today, but some people might. But yeah, no. So the nice thing about these guys is they are the easiest problems to solve ever from a mathematical standpoint, because all you have to do, and I mean all you have to do, is go, I'm keeping this in there for it's a 2-year CD. All right, cool. So then the formula is simply, if I was doing it right here, I'm just going to steal this interest here, okay? Interest 4 divided by 12 plus, oh no, but no plus deposit, Jay. Why? Because it's a CD. You can't take money out. So all you do is that part right there and drag it down for 2 years, and then you're done. You're guaranteed a whopping $10 return on your investment, okay? But don't knock these when the interest rates are high, and they will come back again at some point. When these things are high, they are actually a fairly good investment. I'll never forget when I was a kid, Grandpa, well, he was a farmer, but then he quit farming. Well, he still did the business end of it, but then he sold real estate, and I don't know, I think he did okay for himself, but he would always get these CDs. And I remember one day he'd ask me to go do stuff with him. So he's like, you want to run to Yakima with me? I'm like, when the hell am I going to Yakima? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's like 3 hours from our house. He's like, I've got money in a CD over there. But I had a CD too at the local bank, but Yakima. So I said, and so we drove over there. I'm like, how did you find out about these? Like, I just called around. Well, in his house, in his office, in his house, he had these random stacks of phone books. And he would just call random places and what's your interest rate? What's your interest rate? And so he'd drive to Yakima. But in his big old Cadillac, which got terrible mileage, I mean, we must have burned, I don't know how much gallons of gas driving over there and back, and he bought me lunch. I'm sure he'd blow his whole interest that he made extra driving over there. But, you know, back in the day, it was a pretty cool deal. From a mathematical standpoint, I think it's good to know about. From a consumer standpoint, it may come down to a deal in the future. Someone asks you, hey, do you want to take this loan, or do you think the CD would be good, or whatever? It's something that you should be familiar with. Let's see if I can pull one up here real quick. So, you know, if you just go to your local bank, say this is your local bank. I don't really know. I have not been on this website in a while. Sometimes these things are easier to run than others. Banking, and then look right here, savings accounts. Yeah, you can check savings accounts. You can change all these different things. Tell us where you live. Oregon. Cool. Nice. Okay, and so you can go in here and see they're the classical savings accounts. They don't pay anything, 0.01%. And then look at here, 0.2% if you get this money market account, right? And then you can go in, and I think they had up here somewhere, and I didn't see where it went. So I saw CDs. Yep, CDs. Yeah, CD probably pays a little bit more here. Yeah, look at that. They pay 0.3% at here because they don't pay anything on their actual savings account. So their actual savings account rate is not, by the way, this is 1%. Oops. That's 1%. They're not paying 1%. This is that's nothing, Jay. 0.001. That's 0.1%. That's not what they're paying. That's 0.01%. That's the interest rate that they are paying on their savings account. Now, if you got rid of this, I just want to show this for comparison purposes. Let's say that you are a local person. I will only bank local. All right, cool. What I'm doing here is I'm getting rid of the deposit. I just want to show you something here. This is another good reason to like Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. I'm going to start off with the same amount in each account here. Cool. And then this one here, I'm actually going to go over here and put in 0.3%. Okay. And I'm going to name this something. What am I going to name it? Interest 5 or something. Cool. And so then here, I'm just going to change this formula slightly. There we go. So what I'm going to do is just compare these two side by side. Okay. Now, neither one of these accounts are worth a crap. All right. This one here, you made, look at that right there. You made $1.86 on this account in 2 years. Wow. Awesome. This one over here, you made, we made $5. Yeah. Awesome. I'm killing it. So your local bank accounts are just terrible for when it comes to savings. Okay. I mean, I still have a local account for my checking account, things like that, because I like my local branch. I like to be able to go into there. But my savings account, I got some online. I'm not going to do this whole, this terrible. This is, if you think about that for a minute, pull up a calculator here real quick. Open it up. There you go. 0.003 divided by 0.1231. Oops. Well, if you hit equals, it would help. Okay. Get over here. Oh, darn it. It's 30 times more interest. I could have just said that. I'd probably been easier. Whatever. But it's 30 times more interest in their CD. Okay. But 30 times nothing is not much. Okay. So in this case, so just be aware of that. The goal this week in the homework is to learn about Excel, mess around with savings accounts, and then talk about and then get comfortable with our formulas, and then get very comfortable with savings accounts in that regard. Those are the biggies this week. There's one last thing I want to leave you with, and that's this. Got to share my screen first before I do that. Hang on. One more thing I want to leave you with just before we go on, and that is the idea of, well, what if you stupid beard needs trimming. What if I had $500,000 saved up when I retire, which would be great, I think. Okay. So the question is then, let's say you had this baby in a nice account, was making 5% interest. Very cool. Very cool. Nice. And listen, I'm going to live high on the hog, friend. And you're like, $3,500 a month? Yeah, but my house is paid for already. I'm good to go. I'm just going to live high on the hog here. Payment. The question might very well be, how long will this much money last? Okay. And so the answer to that question would be something like this. And you drag that down. Normally in class, I always like to pick on the 18-year-olds in this regard. 18-year-old, you had money, let's say you'd saved up and you had like zillions of dollars saved up when you retire. Awesome. And you're like someone like me who's like pushing 50, you're at 50 there, and you start saving now for retirement. You're not going to have much. So when I get there, I'd be living on, like $1,000 a month or something, and I'm probably still going to run out before I'm like 70 or something. And someone who's like, someone who starts saving early on, they maybe have like $700,000, and like they can pull out $3,500 and it would never go away. And in other words, they can just live on their interest, and it's fun. But anyways, alas, we're not in class anymore. So right there, right in between here and here is when it goes negative. Do you see that? So somewhere around the neighborhood of 217 months, again, 218 is really 217 months. It would last me 18 years. Ooh, say 65 plus 18 is 83. That seems kind of young to be kicking the bucket, or running out of money at least. So let's go up here, and what would you do? Well, if you're planning, I guess you should probably pull out a few a little less money every month, right? And then see how much longer that stretches out. So somewhere down here, again, it's going to go to 0. Now it goes to 0 about 285 months. 23 years from 65, that puts us at what, 88? That's better, it's closer. And you could kind of plan on these things and see how well you can live, how long you can live for. In other words, if you retired at age 65 and you wanted to be able to have money to live until you're 90, that's 25 years, right? That's 25 years. So you would have to have enough money to be able to live at a certain amount of deposit or the withdrawal amount here, so that it would run out at 0 at age 90, which would be 25 years, which would be 300 months, I think. Okay. And so in that regard, that's what you'd want to set that up as. You would want to find out how much money you'd need to have here in order to withdraw that amount, to have it run out exactly at age 90. Okay. And then you could plan for, what am I going to have to do to get to that savings goal? Okay. Because remember, this is a goal. This is what I would start off with when I retired. But where did it come from? It came from saving money. And so you wouldn't want to be saving so much money every month that your life is just miserable. You're eating ramen every month, but by God, when I retire, I can live on the hog. That seems weird. By the same token, though, you don't want to not save up enough. And then when you get to your retirement age, you're eating ramen the rest of your life. That's weird too. So obviously at some point, like I need to save up to a certain amount. This will last me a certain amount of time. Okay. Interestingly enough, at some point, if you look at this right here, oh, that's not quite enough. Hang on. What would happen if I took out, not 200, you dork, 2,000 a month? Nice. Now, if I only took out $2,000 a month, what's happening to the balance in my account? What's going up? You see that? It's going up every month. And that's the idea that you're making more than $2,000 a month in interest at this rate. Okay. Back in the old days, you'd like the Scrooge McDucks of the world or whatever, you get this giant pile of money, the Warren Buffetts, whatever. They could just live on the interest on what money that they have. In this case here, if you were only pulling out $2,000 and some odd dollars a month, I think you actually pull out $2,083 a month, and it would never go down. You see that? It's basically staying constant the whole time. Okay. And that's because you're just living on just the interest rate. If you're a person who has to live, big time on the money, it's going to drop off a lot faster. And the problem is, of course, you're going to run out, soon. In about 11 years, you're going to be out of money doing that. That's not going to hack it. Okay. So just be aware of that. This stuff we're talking about, it's not just for loans, it's for savings, it's for planning. It's beautiful. And so it's kind of things when you walk away from this class, that's what I hope you're comfortable with. And I hope that you want to use it more for. Very few things in life that I learned in college classes that I use every day. Besides, I guess, teaching math, I guess. But besides that, it's like in my daily life, very few things that I ever would use as a daily basis. But I think that this Excel stuff for consumers, at least, it's a big deal. The only thing in this class that we're going to teach that is arguably not that useful, I don't think, but it's part of the curriculum, so I have to teach it, is some of the logic stuff. For those of you that go on to some things, it matters, but for the most of us in our daily lives, I don't know. It is what it is. But this financial math is kind of a big deal. All right. Starting next week, I'm going to have office hours. I think on Wednesday, I'll send out an email about it. I think I'm going to do it on Wednesday because Wednesday I'm online pretty much all day anyways, teaching my other 3 classes. So I might as well just shoot the rest of the day there. So that's probably what I'll do. Otherwise, send me an email. If you have a question and you're type out your question or say it's this question from page whatever, but send me the spreadsheet that you're working on so I can see what you're doing wrong, okay? Because typically that's the easiest way. I can see, oh, well, here's what you made a mistake on. Of course, if you don't know where to start, obviously that's not helpful at all. So if you just I don't know where to start, that's fine. But if you're working on it and you're I'm not getting the right answer, what am I screwing up? Send me the email, send me the link in there to your spreadsheet, or share your spreadsheet with me, and I will fix it for you. I guess one last thing, I just thought of this one here. Normally I bring it up early. Normally someone does it in class wrong, and it becomes obvious what happens in a second. In this case here, a lot of people, when they put in 5%, you'll see them do this, which is not 5%, it's 50% interest. Okay. That's crazy. Look at that.
I'm not seeing what you're doing again.
God, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, there you go. So a lot of people will do this, and it usually happens in class. I'm walking around a room, someone's like, that's not what I got. And instead of 5%, they'll put in, oops, they'll put in 50%. Okay, obviously that screws things up. Oops, stop it. It'll become more obvious when we start doing loans. If you put in 50% right there, you like the monthly payment will come out to be like $80,000 a month or something. That's clearly not right. Another thing that people will do is they will forget to divide by 12 right here. It just happens frequently. They just forget about doing it, and then it screws it up. If you don't divide by 12, right, then what you're saying is basically this number 5% right here is 1/12 of what the actual interest is, which means that it's actually 60% interest. So if you're getting ginormous numbers that don't make any sense at all, and you're like, wait, that can't be. The monthly payment on this is $30,000, or I can only afford to buy a $40,000 house. The reason is most likely you either forgot to divide by 12, or you got your decimal off somewhere in your interest rates. That's a common mistake. So just be careful of that, and we'll go from there. Okay. That's all I got for today. Questions at all? Comments? Sorry about the losing you on the screen routine. All righty then. Well, have a good week. Again, email with questions if you have any. Well, this video will go up as soon as it posts, or well, as soon as it gets done converting, which takes it about an hour, it seems like, and then I got to upload it. So after that, it'll be online for you, and you can review it if you need to. All right. See you.
I actually have a question, Jay.
Yes, ma'am.
So when looking at the online textbook, it was a little hard for me to navigate to find the sections to make sure that I guess I am in the right area.
Gotcha.
Is there anywhere that you have like page numbers? I downloaded the whole textbook and I was able to sort of find it, but
I don't have them listed out here, but let's just look real quick, I guess. Guess I could add that. So finance, come on, baby. Here you go. Finance, there you go. So section 2.1.
Oh, okay.
There they are right there.
I missed that part.
And then, so I just did it by section. So section there's 2.1. Just keep scrolling through, and you get to 2.2 somewhere. Maybe. Come on, Betsy. Get there. Yep. There's the 2.21s and so on and so on and so on. I guess I could go back and add pages, but yeah.
Was this under the week 1 material?
It's under the getting started. This getting started tab, I think it's called.
Okay.
Let me look. Yeah, introduction to course. Start here. You see it?
Yeah.
So, and then there's some selected problems from the book. I don't have them. That's just what the book sends out. Like I said, I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna guarantee. I'm gonna try to do some more of them and have some more answers for you. And I'll put them there if I get them all done.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome. Anybody else? All righty then. Well, have a good week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
All right.